if I start with a lyric, there's a Stephen Sondheim trick that, the lyric, the words, whatever they might be, like whether it's a phrase or something, the words always suggest a rhythm. Like the way you
Syncopation.
speak, the way you speak has a rhythm to it. Like I would say, well, I'll read that title. It says it came from Memphis. That book title over there. Da 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 da. It starts, if you think about it, it starts to have its own rhythm. So you take that rhythm and you can put you could put a melody, or you can and suggest even the way the melody rises and falls, the way you speak. Speech has melody to it. So if you follow that sort of natural melody and natural rhythm, you'll get a song that flows well and makes melodic and rhythmic sense, and hopefully is pleasing to the ear. I mean, that's what you're trying to communicate, right? So you want people to listen to what you're doing. You don't want to just put it out there and have people ignore it. So you're trying to communicate in the most natural way possible. I think that's sort of always been my philosophy as far as songwriting goes. It's about communication more than anything. And you can do it simply, or you can do it more elaborately, but in the end, it's really all just communication.
So succinct ideas or story, or like, what are you trying to communicate typically?
It's not often story. Sometimes I'll do story songs, but a lot of the times it's just ideas or phrases that I feel are interesting or silly, or so I use a lot of humor too. It's not all serious, like things like today I hate everyone and sick of you, things like that. I think it's funny. It's not really meant to be taken too seriously, but so.
Well, everybody's had those days, you know what I mean? So that's, people could relate to that. Like, you get in the car and you just had a bad day or whatever. It's like, oh, I just hate everybody, And
I see people posting it on Facebook and things like that when they have one of those kind of days. So they're still relating it to that idea. But again, it's communication, and it's a common theme in everyone's life at some point or another, where they're going to hate everyone they see. So I think it was effective that way.
And everybody gets soaked every once in a while, right?
That's right, they do. And again, the demo for Soaked was just kind of funny words that I was putting together. I wasn't really, but it ended up resonating with people for whatever reason. Well, I guess a hook is that sort of brainworm that gets in people's heads, right? So that's sort of what a hook is, sort of technically, but what makes a hook, I think it's not necessarily what immediately comes to mind. I think to a good hook, I think there's a little bit of there's a surprise in it somewhere. Like I said, you're dealing with a tradition, but the way that you manipulate that space is really what makes it interesting. Some people will just go along with whatever the chord structure is, and it'll follow it exactly, and that doesn't really make it very interesting. But if you have little clashes in there that resolve themselves, because music is really, you get a bit of a rub, then you get a resolution. So you're getting
tension release.
Yeah, that's right. So and the contrary motion and things like that are really that gives it that interest. It's not just following along with the chord structure. And I think that's what part of makes a good hook, or makes a hook at all. The other thing is familiarity. If you're and again, familiarity, it's also communication. If you can communicate an idea that's a common theme in people's lives that they can relate to, I think that makes a good hook as well, because it's like they're saying it themselves instead of you're saying something to them. It's like they're saying it.
Their internal dialogue on music.
yeah, so you're sort of expressing their internal dialogue. And I think that's helpful too. Well, I mean, I've listened to so much pop music that it's sort of ingrained in your soul that this happens here and this happens here, sort of thing. And any variation from that, I, I'm all for experimental music, but the stuff, especially with the Killjoys and a lot of my own stuff as well, you're writing within. You've got a structure and you've got a tradition that you're within. So you've got to play by the rules to some extent. I mean, I do stuff that has no rules whatsoever, but that's not really the pop music stuff. So in this format, there's a tradition and a structure that you sort of go by. So I think that not consciously, I don't consciously say, well, here I'm going to do the chorus, here I'm going to do the verse, and here I'm going to, now I'm going to have two verses, but it just kind of flows that way when it comes out, because that's just what has to happen at that certain point. And where you're within a structure, but within that structure, you've got all the leeway in the world to play with. So, but I think you've just got to have respect for the structure that's already there. Toulouse, did you quit it? Sorry, you probably couldn't hear that at all. Eh?
Oh yeah.
What do you want? Do you want to go upstairs?